In this video, I'm set up on the edge of a very steep ravine. Behind me is pretty much a thicket, and there's a few acres dropping right along this edge as this deer is walking right up the bottom of this drainage. She gets to this point and something spooks her. Not really sure what. The video doesn't pick it up very well, but you could have heard her grunt right there as she took off running. A little later that morning, there come a little rain and got everything wet, and these deer started moving up to these acres at the top edge of this ravine. They get a little too close to my tree stand, so they start smelling my ground scent, making them nervous. And normally I would probably shoot one of these deer, but there's a pretty good buck in this area that I'd really like to get a shot at. And just to the left of me, about 20 yards, is a pretty sizable, heavily used scrape. And I'm thinking, well, if I could just hold off on shooting these does, it's possible after this rain that this buck may want to come out and freshen that scrape up. These does pretty much hung around my tree stand for quite a while. That's another reason that I didn't want to really shoot these deer, because if a buck does come out and they see these does and he's interested in them, he may come over there and pursue a chase. But on the other hand, if the buck's standing there and he stops long enough to notice that these does are nervous, he will obviously hold up and watch these does very intent to see what it is that's bothering them before he commits to coming out of the thicket into the open edge woods. So it's a catch-22 sometimes. Having does around your stand can be a good thing and it can be a bad thing. Depends on how nervous they are. This deer is obviously smelling where I walked. People talk about what deer smell, how far they can smell. You know, it's really not up to us to decide. I mean, we can't comprehend what a deer's nose can and can't smell. That's the truth. What we should be worried about is not how far they can smell us, but how are they going to react when they do smell us. This particular doe is dead under my tree, obviously smelling my ground scent. If I wanted to shoot this thing, I already could have. Now, how much ground scent is going to spook a deer, and how much ground scent is going to cause them to be real curious, lock up, stomp a little bit, eventually get nervous and run away? That's the million-dollar question. She's going to go. Later that evening, I'm set up in a different spot. This is pretty much the edge of a mountain gap, what some people call it. This really isn't a mountain, it's just a high ridge. These does are coming out of their bed area, going to work their way around this little gap, which creates a pinch point. They're going from their bed area to food. In this, I'm drawing the bow back right here. I actually stand up and draw the bow back all in one motion. But I do it very slowly, very steady, without any sudden movements, because these deer are already nervous coming around through here. I think they've done caught my wind. Obviously in the afternoons, you get close to a mountain gap like that, or a ridge gap in this case, it can create some swirling winds. When the winds hit that, it changes directions, and really it's kind of a good and a bad place to sit sometimes. But again, I'm pretty sure these deer are sniffing something they don't like, but they haven't took off out of the county. I'm fixing to make my shot right here. She's going to run off down through there, and this is a testimony to how tough deer are.
I absolutely cannot believe this deer is doing what it's doing with that shot. Pass through shot. Unbelievable what this deer is running through. These cliffs and bluffs. Crazy.
I didn't get any recovery of this deer. It was late on up in the night before I found her. But I did find her. And there she is on the back of my truck. The best part, right there.